Welcome to this overview of Digital Mirror from Cataphora. Digital Mirror is a new, free, downloadable software tool that allows you to examine the style of your interactions and relationships through a series of detailed visualizations. In this video, you will see a reflection of Cataphora's 8+ years of experience analyzing individual and organizational behavior in the context of large corporate investigations. This first glimpse, initial version of Digital Mirror uses a small subset of Cataphora's patented technology. First, the user must install and run the software. Once Digital Mirror completes the analysis, it displays this overview page. As you can see, this view shows the 9 visualizations available in the software's initial form. I will briefly walk you through each one. For the purposes of this demonstration, we are using a dataset that is loosely based on that of longtime Cataphora employee Rick Yanowski. Let's begin with quality time. This view shows who you appear to dedicate the most quality time to. As you can see, a timeline appears across the top of this visualization. Once we press play, we are able to examine how Rick's relationships with certain people shift over time. This timeline dates back to the founding of the company, so at first there are not that many people around. However, over time, more people appear and Rick spends quality time with many of them. The next view shows Rick's social universe and how he interacts with his colleagues and personal friends over time. Again, a timeline appears at the top of this view. Let's press play. At first, as in the previous visualization, there's no one really around but Elizabeth. Notice the comment of Adam Fisher over on the right and see how it flares out of existence. This represents a severed relationship, meaning that Rick and Adam no longer communicated after this point. Other planets fade in and out, depending on who Rick seems to be closest to at any given point. Let's take a very brief look at the who, what, when visualization. This view shows who you've talked to, about which topics, and when these conversations occurred. Now for Rick, topics include industry news, Monaco Media, SocGen, and a few others. The next visualization shows blow-off behavior, which can be characterized as any time you defer dealing with someone because they are simply not a top priority. This view shows up to 5 people, along with measures of various types of blow-off behavior. Now, you may notice asymmetries in communications with certain people. For example, Rick's use of blow-off language towards David far exceeds David's blow-off language to Rick. Next is pecking order. Unlike an organizational chart, which describes the formal hierarchy within a company, this visualization shows the relative importance that you yourself assign to people, based on the specific order in which you addressed email messages. Often, this forms a pattern and reveals your personal, subconscious, and a less obvious hierarchy of importance. For example, in the pecking order on the left, Nick and Greg are the lowest level employees in their organization, and yet, they are the ones that Rick places first in many communications, because they are the ones he relies on to do the actual work. The names lower down are supervisors and managers. This next view shows buck passing, specifically how often Rick passes on work to coworkers when he is himself assigned a particular task, or how often others pass work to him. Now, Rick is quite the buck passer, except with his boss, Elizabeth, where the arrow points towards him. For this visualization and others, you can view evidence to support the results. So when I click on this arrow, for example, You see an email which Elizabeth asks Rick to take care of something. Moving on, we see examples of loud talking, which is when people tend to add extra emphasis in their email messages, using typographical tricks, such as writing in all caps or using lots of punctuation, for example. The next view is the temperature gauge. It shows instances where Rick has a particularly strong emotional response to a topic compared with everyone else, or vice versa. Now, the relative lack of activity in the top row, which represents Rick, suggests that he is somewhat laid back in comparison with his colleagues. Finally, we come to stressful topics. This shows the topics and people involved in the most stressful conversations that Rick has participated in. The timeline is colored yellow for periods that don't have data relevant to the particular topics chosen for display. Now, because this first glimpse version of Digital Mirror shows only a limited amount of data, there may be quite a lot of yellow within the timeline. As the animation plays, the emoticons show the specific kinds of stress that were produced by various topics. Thank you so much for your interest in Digital Mirror. Please visit our website to learn more about Digital Mirror and other Cataphora products and services, including those for enterprise, legal, investigation, government, and other markets.